what we've got here is a really awful moment where people will think all their prejudices about politicians are proved right. And, you know, after all my decades in the House of Commons, I absolutely believe that Peter Mandelson is the exception, not the rule. And that's why the government have got to step forward with making good on all the pledges they put in their manifesto to change the processes, to change the laws in order to clean up politics. And they really need to do that urgently now.
Harriet, your reaction. The events have developed very fast over the weekend and into today, and particularly today. What's your reaction to what's happened?
Well, I was absolutely horrified by the idea that Peter Mandelson was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein while he was in prison and was writing to him, supporting him and saying what a shame it was he was in prison, he was going to help him afterwards. But then I think it was another level again when it appeared that he'd written emails giving secret government information when he was actually in the cabinet, and the country was facing the aftermath of a global financial crisis. And I think that it was just, you know, astonishing and appalling. But, you know, at the end of the day, the processes are now underway to deal with all of this. And I think that people feel very shocked, but in a way not surprised. I mean, one former number 10 person said to me, how can something be both at one and the same time astonishing, but not at all surprising? And I think that's what people think about it.
Iain Dale, is that how you feel?
Yes, and I think as time has gone on, this has all the hallmarks of being possibly the biggest political scandal in British politics since Proffumo.
To an individual.
To an individual. Here you've got that sort of horrible mix of sex, perverted sex and politics and finance. And I think people are genuinely shocked by it. I think Harriet's right. I mean, in a sense, Peter Mandelson has had a, shall we say, a turbulent up and down career. And he's come back from resignations twice. But I mean, the astonishing thing to me is the interview he gave to Katie Balls in the Times on the 25th of January, then sort of updated on Sunday, which is riddled with him effectively saying, oh, you haven't seen the last of me, I'm going to make another comeback. He doesn't get it. There isn't going to be another comeback. He will be disappeared by all of those people who used to invite him to these highfalutin dinner parties in London. They won't want to be associated with him any longer. And for somebody who was a very talented government minister, I think, somebody who actually did a good job as ambassador for 6 months, I mean, it is a very, very sad end to what could have been an absolutely stellar political career.
And I do want to get a sense of quite how pivotal a figure Peter Mandelson was. I mean, Harriet, you were clearly very important in that Blair-Brown era. You were deputy leader when he was made deputy prime minister. You've known him for many decades. What was he like to interact with? Paint a picture of the Peter Mandelson you knew and interacted with in politics.
Well, God, that's quite a tall order.
Just in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Ideally less.
I really, honestly, people will just have to judge what they see. I haven't got anything sort of totally inside track, except to say this, is that Peter liked to define himself as being the architect of New Labour, but that's not how I saw it. I think New Labour was Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, plus quite a lot of John Prescott, you know, traditional values in a modern setting. And Peter Mandelson, who'd started off as Neil Kinnock's Director of Communications, then, you know, was Director of Communications for the Labour Party. But I think he wasn't an architect, but he was, you know, very much at the centre of events.
But he was made Deputy Prime Minister when you were Deputy Leader of the party.
Well, he wasn't actually made Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, he was First Secretary of State, effectively the same thing.
Yeah. Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
He took a role that perhaps you might have expected to get.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
Gordon
felt that he needed him at his side and that he would actually help him. And Gordon was warned by a lot of people, myself included, but I was by far from the only one saying, you can't trust Peter, you know, get your advice and support elsewhere.
Why did you think you couldn't trust him? What was it about him?
Well, because that would be my sense of Peter since the 1990s, where I felt that he was divisive as between Tony and Gordon rather than helping them work together, and it was such an incredibly important partnership. I felt he was divisive, and I've said that in the past, but I think that Gordon no doubt feels particularly aggrieved because although he was warned not to trust Peter, he gave Peter this chance to once again be at the heart of government. And then how does he repay that opportunity? By doing emails of inside sensitive information from the cabinet to an American financier.
And remember,
I just do want to ask you that you mentioned that he was doing a good job as ambassador in this latest role, but do you think it was a mistake? It showed a failure of judgment by Keir Starmer, political judgment anyway, by giving him the role.
There's a lot of hindsight here because a lot of journalists, a lot of Labour MPs made comments at the time saying this is an inspired appointment. I think I was probably one of them because we wanted a trade deal with America. He was the EU Trade Commissioner. He knew about trade deals. He was a good minister. He knew how to pull the levers of power and make things happen. So, yes, there was the trustworthiness issue, completely understand that. But on the face of it, it was a good appointment. And I still think he did a good job in those 6 months. But you can't survive what has happened over the last 6 months.
But you see, I think character matters in these things. And I think to say somebody is good in an appointment, but they lack the right principles or values, I don't think you can set those aside. And if you do, this is exactly where you end up.
Well, of course, you've got a lot of Labour MPs today deleting all of their tweets from the day that he was appointed, all saying, oh, this is a marvellous appointment, and they're all disappearing.
Well, they were simply trying to be supportive in a quite natural way. They were trying to be supportive of a government choice.
Well, let's bring Nick in. You've been in Westminster all day, as usual. How exposed are you picking up the Prime Minister is?
There are nerves, but Katie, just before I answer that, I'll pick up on what Ian was saying about the comparison with the Jack Proffumo scandal in 1963. I was speaking a few hours ago to a good friend of Peter Mandelson, and this person said to me he should do a Proffumo. And by that he means, what did Jack Proffumo do? He resigned his seat after misleading Parliament, and he went almost immediately, did 4 days a week of good works at Toynbee Hall with less affluent people in the East End. He was rehabilitated, got a CBE in 1975, and Mandelson's friends are saying perhaps he might want to do something like that. But in terms
of... It depends if he has a criminal... It depends if this ends up with a criminal prosecution or not.
Indeed.
It's different.
He won't do that because it's not in his character. All of his friends will be advising him not to say anything. Don't do any more interviews. It cannot be to your benefit to do this. But he's just not made in that way. He always wants to be the centre of attention, not alone in politics in that regard.
Can I just cut to the public here? Because I think the public watching it, I would hate them to think, as many of them do, that all politicians are the same, they're all on the make, they're all in it for themselves, and they're all in it for the money. And what we've got here is a really awful moment where people will think all their prejudices about politicians are proved right. And you know, after all my decades in the House of Commons, I absolutely believe that Peter Mandelson is the exception, not the rule. And that's why the government have got to step forward with making good on all the pledges they put in their manifesto to change the processes, to change the laws in order to clean up politics. And they really need to do that urgently now.
Well, Nick, what are MPs telling you?
Just very briefly, Peter Mandelson hasn't spoken publicly today, but the BBC understands that he maintains he didn't act criminally, he was not acting for personal gain, and in terms of passing over those market-sensitive emails to Jeffrey Epstein, he said he was seeking his expertise in the national interest. In terms of Keir Starmer, there are nerves. There's the reaction to that.
I mean, seriously.
No, but hang on, it was not. He was not entitled in his judgment to send those documents. Those were secret documents that he was copied in, and he was not entitled as a cabinet minister to arrange for the Chancellor to be lobbied by people who didn't want the Chancellor to proceed with government policy.
The bank statements are there for all to see.
Well, he's saying he doesn't recall receiving them.
Well, he doesn't recall an awful lot.
Yeah, JP Morgan recalls sending him the money, but he doesn't recall receiving it. And for everybody else, I mean, if you got £50,000 in your bank account, you kind of remember it. But he says, I don't recall. He doesn't deny it anyway. I mean, but we've got to get back to the fact that people are entitled to have a government that they can believe in, that when you become a cabinet minister, you swear an oath in front of the monarch that you will act in the public interest, in the interests of the country that you serve. And that's the oath you swear, and people have got to believe that, and they've got to be entitled to believe that that's what cabinet ministers will do.